Hi, everyone, and welcome back to Brian's Horror Corner, or welcome if you are new to my channel. Glad to have you here. So this is going to be the intro video for the second part of my overall 1980s horror series to kick off the new year, 2025. Happy New Year, by the way, to everybody out there, as I'm recording this on December 31st, 2024. But by the time most of you watch it, it'll probably be the new year or close to it. But yeah, last year, if you're not familiar with my channel or you're new, I decided that I was going to take a look at each year of the 1980s. So I did 1980, I believe the middle of this year, of 2024, this year or last year, depending on when you're watching this, which was a 3-month series coverage in terms of watching and reviewing horror movies from 1980 that I hadn't watched or reviewed on my channel before. And then I did a top 20, my top 20 of that particular year, 1980. So if you want to check that out, go ahead and find that. Like I said, I believe it was like May, June, and July of last year, of 2024, I should say. But now we're going to kick off 1981. We're going to kick that off with the new year. And there are some subtle changes, but also some things that are the same as the first part of this overall 1980s series. Like I said, this is an ongoing series. I'll be doing 1980 all the way to 1989, so this will be over the course of years. But I thought I would kick off 2025 with 1981. And 1981 has a lot of horror movies in it, a lot of well-known horror movies. Some not as well-known that I'm excited to check out. I have quite a few in my collection, but not all of them. And rather than what I did in 1980, which was go out and or go online and buy all these horror movies, I can't do that for every year. Otherwise, I'm going to run out of space behind me here. You can already see I'm pretty full up in this room. So I'm going to do a lot of streaming for 1981, a lot more than I did for 1980. But there will still be quite a few that I have physically in my hand, too, that I have on DVD or Blu-ray. So, yeah, I IDBM'd all the horror movies from 1981 and then sorted them out based on whether they're true horrors or whatever the case might be. A lot of slashers, of course, in 1981. But yeah, this is my intro video for 1981. So I just kind of wanted to give you guys some of the differences that you're going to see compared to the first one. I already talked about one, which is I'll be streaming a lot more of the movies for this year than having them physically in my hand. And of course, like 1980, here's some similarities. Like 1980, I did go through and watch horror movies from 1981 that I have watched and reviewed on my channel before in a previous series over the last 4 or 5 years, however long I've had my channel. So if you want to see reviews for movies like Friday the 13th Part 2 or Halloween 2 or The Evil Dead, you should be able to find those on my channel. You might have to go back a little ways as part of a different series. But I did go back and rewatch some of those in the time leading up to this series over the last few months, just to kind of remind myself and get it fresh in my mind. Some of them I'd only seen once or twice, something like Deadly Blessing or The Funhouse. So I wanted to have those fresh in my mind. So obviously you won't see reviews for this series for those movies because I've already done them on my channel. But there's a lot of other 1981 horror movies. So the way this is going to work is it's actually going to be a 3.5-month series. And that's just how many movies there are that I want to get into this series. And then, of course, I'll have my top 20. And yes, it will be another top 20, just like 1980 was. 1981 will also be my top 20 best or favorite horror movies for 1981, however you want to say it. So we're going to be kicking this off in a couple of days. You're going to see the first title that I'm going to review is going to be Evil Speak from 1981 with Clint Howard. This is a movie that I watched before, but I haven't reviewed on my channel. I only watched it once, and that was a while ago. So that's going to be kicking us off here in a couple of days, Evil Speak. And then I'm basically every 3 or 4 days in January, there's going to be a new movie from 1981. Now, Evil Speak I do have on physical media. I have the DVD for that one. But other ones following that and throughout the month, I kind of organize these just at random. They're either going to be streamed off of YouTube, off of Shudder, other streaming services possibly that I found. But The series is going to span January, February, April, and the first half of May. And you might be saying to yourself, well, wait a minute, where's March? Does March no longer exist as a month? No, it does. I have another series that I'm going to do for the month of March. It's going to be a horror franchise review series, which is very appropriate for the month of March. I won't tell you what that horror franchise is, but you can probably guess if you think about the month of March and horror franchises. It's very much related to a certain day in the month of March. So I thought it'd also be a kind of a way to break up this part two, this 1981 horror series review series. So January and February will be all 1981 horror movie reviews. Then March we're going to switch into the horror franchise review. Then April we're going to get back to 1981 through the month of April, the whole month. And then there's still so many movies that I have. The first half of May, I'm also going to be finishing off 1981 horror movies that I hadn't reviewed before. And then of course I'm going to have my top 20 for 1981 around May 15th. And just so everybody remembers from my first part of this series from 1980, that top 20 can include horror movies that I reviewed in previous series. So not necessarily just the horror movies that I'm going to be reviewing on my channel for January, February, April, and the first part of May. And then the second part of May, not that you need to know this now, but I decided I'm going to do a TV series, a fairly recent one in the last 5 or 6 years. A TV series that's not an anthology TV series. And I'll just kind of leave it at that. But it's done by one of my favorite current directors in horror. So we'll leave it at that. But that's going to be the second half of May. So you can already see I got the first 5 months all planned out. And a lot of good stuff to come after that. My goal is to do at least 2 years of this overall 1980s ongoing horror series. So I'll be hitting 1982 probably the end of summer of this year, 2025. I'm sure that'll be a 3-month series as well. I'll have to figure that out as we go here. But with that being said, yeah, I've got my movies all lined up for January, February, April, and the first half of May. As I said, I watched all the 1981 horror movies that I reviewed on my channel previously, just to get them fresh in my mind. And yeah, I don't really think there's anything else to say. I'm really excited to get into this series. I know 1981 is known as one of the great horror years, especially for the 1980s, but really overall, especially if you're into slashers, I think. So, with that being said, I hope everybody enjoys this series. I hope everybody has a happy new year. Make sure you subscribe to my channel if you haven't already. Hit the little notification bell and like this intro video. And as I said, stay tuned for the first horror movie from 1981, which is Evil Speak, which will be dropping in a day or two here, shortly into January. So, with all that being said, Happy New Year to everybody. 2024 is behind us. 2025 is ahead of us. Let's make it a great year, both in horror and out. And with that being said, thanks for watching this intro video. Happy New Year, and as always, though, stay scared. Bye.